Good morning from my sofa, and how are you doing? I'm here today to talk to you about entering this competition by Foundations Revealed. So, Foundations Revealed contest this year's theme is going to be Once Upon a Time, and you can choose a poem, a book, a novel, a short story, anything. I was really struggling to find inspiration, and I thought, okay, you can't do a film, no problem. So what books do I have? Oh, I have Millie Molly Mandy. Always wanted to make Millie Molly Mandy. Then I'm like, it's not really fantasy. I feel like it needs to be something a bit more fantastical. But I do think I should do the Millie Molly Mandy costume one day, because that'd be really cool, so I can take that illustration and make it a more period. Now, I was really struggling. I'm like, okay, I know I've got like a design I did of a fantasy book years ago somewhere. I still don't know where it is. But I did find some of my designs from when I was at high school. And I was flipping through it, and I had done like several designs of Sleeping Beauty. I was like, hello? Yeah? So I'll just insert my original designs here, and I couldn't think of anything more perfect, because when I think Sleeping Beauty, I don't think the Disney film. I think of the grim story of what it was. And I had always designed her in my head to be like in this beautiful dress, but the dress has decayed because she's been asleep for such a long time that it's not going to look amazing when she wakes up. Let's be realistic, because when you look at textiles throughout the centuries, they do deteriorate, especially if the story is from the 1500s. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on that process of doing all the design work with you. So I'm currently Pinteresting. So normally speaking, when I come up with an idea, I'll look at the primary source. So it might be a story, it might be a period, it might be a year, it might be, you know, a general sort of thing. So right, I'm thinking, okay, Sleeping Beauty, okay, I'm not going to look at the Disney pictures because that is not at all correct historically, and I don't really like it at all, the designs. So I'm looking at some of the early illustrations of Sleeping Beauty. So I found some really good things on Google Images. Now I'm going through Pinterest, and I'm just seeing what sort of things are going on here. And then once I've got my little inspo, a little like, you know, oh, what can I do? I'm going to head to my books and start looking around that time period, because it says here on the internet that the original story is French. So I'm definitely going to do something French, and that the original story was also published in 1528. So we're going to look all into that. Going through all this, you've got several versions. You've got the original plot, and then you've got the original writer's plot, and then you've got the Grimm's brothers plot, another person's plot. There's different variations. So it's interesting because we've got to choose one of the books. Do we choose the original one, or do we choose something that's been rewritten? For me, I think I'm going to do the original one, because I think it'd be really interesting to do that time period, because it's, you know, Tudor sort of period. But either way, it's going to be French, so it's going to be a completely different palette. What I do, once I get my inspiration, I go to Pinterest and I start looking at some of the designs. Like, isn't that fantastic? I forgot Maleficent was in it. But like, look at this. This has got some French aspects into it. I love this. This looks very periody to the time period we're looking at. I love these sort of things, because the Victorians knew how to do that sort of artwork. Like, how fantastic is this? I absolutely love that. So I'll just spend some time going here, going through it all, seeing if there's any inspiration for me. So once I've done all that, I'll start making a mood board. So what I do now is I take all these books, which are my Bibles, very, very heavy. So I just have a really good generic book on history, and it's really clear, and I can go through that and see what's going on there. And then my Old Faithful, and the first costume book I ever bought, John Peacock. It's a great little basis to go off to, and then it has all the names of everything, which is fantastic, because I find as a costumer you have to remember so many different words for items. It's really good. And then this is always quite good because it has French, English, all European ones, so I'll have a look at that as well. There's also this great book, which is Fashion Details. It has lots of information in there. And then also this book. And they're all really, really good sources, actually. You know, you'll find multiple things and start bringing it together. And then you can actually go onto Wikipedia, which is fantastic. And here it says 1500 to 1550 in Western European fashion. And it's really, really clean cut, and I love it. There's so much online now as well, and you just get all these and you do your notes and you do your mood boards and then bring them all together. Now I did actually Google 1520 fashion. It looks like I'm going to be making something just like an Ever After. Yes, I love that costume so much, and I have a pattern for it. Yay! So let's get to work and going through all of my books. So I pulled out some fabrics from my own personal stash, and I thought it'd be really nice to keep to the same palette. I'm not going to do it historical with fabrics and color tones because it's meant to be a fantasy. It's meant to be a little bit whimsical, and I can like attach little flowers like this. But then I'm like using this sort of fabric to make it a bit more of the period. And then I can use bits of this, and I found this, and I think this would be really cool to break down. I could put it maybe in the sleeves, and I've had this for years, so maybe I can use it on something. But this might be really nice on the bodice because it's, you know, its own version of medieval Renaissance, and I've also got some really nice silk. So that's, I think, going to be my color palette. So I'm going to see if there's any interesting fabrics online that could work in this color palette that gives me inspiration. And it's a bit difficult to go fabric shopping because, you know, lockdown. OMG, I found it. I found it. Like, look at this. Look at this. It's stunning. And like, I really want to use that for my witch costume. It's so beautiful. This is it. This is the fabric, and it's all like nature. So the trees and ivy and everything has grown up her. Love it. Now I'm going to find some decent velvet. Again, I know it's not period. Oh, definitely not. Oh, that's really beautiful as well. Ooh, how exciting! So let's do a mini haul of all the fabric that I bought on eBay. You know what? That's another reason why I love living in the UK. eBay really does rock when it comes to fabrics. You get some really good hits. And wait till you see the top fabric. It's delicious. So I've got this, which I really wanted to keep it a very muted sort of vibe to make it look like it might have been like something really pretty in the olden days, but it's just faded from time. So I've got that. And then, oh, I'm so excited about this. Look at this. I've not even opened it yet. I'm just so excited by this. It's gonna look so good. Wow. Oh, that looks stunning. Wow, sorry. That's so beautiful. Oh my god, it looks like a fairy tale. I'm so sorry for my singing, but doesn't that look so beautiful together? I'm really happy that it turned out grayer than I thought, because this makes it really pop, and it's so fantasy, isn't it? So some of the stuff I do have, so maybe use that as some like sleeve puffs, which would be really cute. I love this. I always love this. This fabric is just, I'll buy it in every color. It's just so beautiful. I could use that for something maybe that could go over the sleeve, little puffs. I was thinking about using these for the sleeves. Well, I think this needs to go somewhere. Well, I say that. but I've got that as well. I do have some of this silk we could use for something, and then I thought that could be the bodice, and I bought this years ago, so it'd be nice to use it for something. Oh my god, yeah, that is totally going to be the bodice. I really love that color palette. That's so cool. And then I also wasn't going to buy it, but I saw this. Oh yeah, so that would definitely go on the arms. But it's so magical, which is the theme, isn't it? So let's get to cutting it all out. So first things first, which way is the pile going? Okay, it seems to be going that way. Oh, I could do it that way. Definitely not doing that way. So we're going to cut it this way. So they'll be cutting along the selvage. So I'm going to use this panel, and so this is where the base of the tree is, so I'm going to start at the bodice going up, and that means I'm definitely going to do it with the sleeve. So you have the whole sleeve going up. Alright, so what we're going to do, we're going to lay the lace on top of the velvet so we get an understanding of how it's all going to look together, and that way we'll be able to sew the two pieces together at the same time. Now we're going to start with the bodice, and we're going to pin all the seams together we have of the cream fabric. So that's the back seam, the side back, and the side front, and then stitch them all together. And don't forget to press all the seams once you've sewn them all together. Now we're going to work on the front panel, which will be in the purple velvet. Now I decided to put some gold trimming to break up the fabric a little bit, just so it wasn't so bold in your face. And I also attached some strong interfacing on the front because I want it to be very firm. Now this wasn't included in the pattern, so I added some lining using the same pattern pieces, but added some gold fabric I had. And then we're going to attach it to the cream fabric that we have. Once we've pinned all that lining in, we're going to attach the front piece to the side front. As you can see here, I left the lining to the side because we're going to do something fancy along the way. And then let's stitch that all down. As you can see here, I'd also done lining for the front panel. And then trim all the excess off the front panel because you don't want to be too bulky because it's such a thick fabric. As you can see here, I'm adding some facing to it, which was originally in the pattern, and I thought, no, let's keep it because we don't want to see the gold. So I stitched that along the neckline and the center front. And of course, you know me, I love my top stitch, and I top stitched all down so it sit really flush against the fabric. I then proceeded to add the waistband. Now originally the skirt and the bodice were two separate pieces on the pattern, but I decided not to do that. I was going to join them all up together. Now it's time for the sleeves. Oh, I do love this ribbon. It's just gorgeous. I just placed it where I thought it would look really nice and showcase it all off. So these little sleeve puffs, well, that was an interesting thing to do. There was a lot of them to do, 18 to be precise. And you've just got to whip them through that sewing machine as quickly as possible and pull them all out so you can see all the delicious velvet on top, because you know it's going to take about 16 years in a really good TV show. And then when you iron it over, we want to make sure you don't see the seam. So I did it at the back. And just keep pressing all those delicious pieces together. Now that we've got all those pieces together, to give the sleeves a little bit more of a ruching, I got this silk fabric I had and cut it to the same length of the little rectangles that I had. And I cut it very, very long so I could do a lot of ruching in the sewing machine. And I say a lot. Gosh, I love the size 6 stitch. attach it to a strip of fabric that was cut the same length as the top sleeve, and then about 8 centimeters in width, as we had originally cut the sleeves about 12 centimeters, so we really wanted to give that va-va-voom. Here I am attaching the strips to the silk fabric so we can work as a fabric as one, because otherwise it's very fiddly. And now we've attached it to the sleeve. Quite like that. In the original pattern, they had it so it was connected by a piece of string to make it have a variety of shapes, but as I laid out, I really didn't like how it was sitting, so I knew it was going to be best to let it just drape freely. And then start by attaching it to the top sleeve, and then you're able to attach it to the bottom half of the sleeve as well. Oh, look at that lace. It's all coming together so beautifully. Now, sewing the sleeve together was interesting, especially when we came into the frith. We really had to shove it through, one would say. And then we will bag that sleeve out. Now again, I did lining because I wanted to sit very smoothly, because there was a lot going on inside that sleeve, and I really wanted to be able to put my arm through. Then reverse the sleeve out, because you want to be able to attach it via the wrist, so that way we'll be able to bag it out via the wrist instead, and it will sit more cleanly. Alrighty, let's bag her out and shove her back the other way. Now when attaching it to the sleeve, I was going to join the lining together and then just do a bias binding around the sleeve, because there was so much going on in that sleeve. That was the best way I thought it was going to sit nicely. And I don't mind sitting in front of the TV doing some bias binding. I had this really beautiful trimming I've had for years, and I thought, let's do it. Let's attach it down, and it has an aspect of a slip underneath. And I added some more ribbon to the bodice to really bring it together. The skirt. Well, there was a lot of fabric to sew together. I had cut about 4 different panels going across the whole length of the fabric, and I sewed them all together, and then I did my pleating. Now I quite like pleating, and this was an interesting one because the way I measure it out, I really like doing pleating. I had the pleats about 8 centimeters in total together, so it really let it drape that beautiful Renaissance vibe you get on all those paintings, to really show the extravagance and wealth of these people with the amount of velvet they can use. And I attach it to a piece of pigeon because we want it to be sturdy to be able to connect it to the bodice. And then don't forget to hem it before you start attaching the lace. I just cut this lace down to the base of the trees so we could really showcase that fabric off. And then I had to ruche it because there was just not enough fabric to match up with the amount of velvet we had. But I don't mind that because it turned out quite flowy and extravagant. You can see we're going to attach the skirt and the bodice together by using that waistband we had originally used on the bodice and fold it in half. And that way it was very strong on either end. You want to stitch it both sides. Now it was very blocky now, so I got some more of that beautiful trimming and attached it on by hand. I decided it was time to use some eyelets to put the whole dress together. And I attached a little bit of fabric at the back so we could turn that over and it would be neat and keep all the fabric inside, so we could attach some eyelets later on. Oh, don't forget a placket. You always need a placket. And I hand stitched the placket and the eyelet casing down. I always like to measure my eyelets out using a ruler, and this was about 2.5 centimeters apart, which is enough space, I feel, for all the eyelets together. Well, this was not tricky whatsoever. I'm joking. It was hard because the amount of velvet that was used, you really had to poke a hole using your awl and then chop away with some scissors and really push that eyelet into the hole when it came to pressing it down with the eyelet machine. Oh, it looks so good. I'm so happy with it. And don't forget to repeat it on the other side. Now, this beauty is ready to rock and roll.